Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So this is the Google Hangout that I was supposed to do the other day when I fell asleep. So I want to thank everyone that's going to be tuning in. I see I already have a thumbs down right now. I just got started. I didn't even open my mouth and I already got a thumbs down, man. I guess the haters are out. Shout out to the people that are watching. I see a couple of people tuning in. I'm going to get started in a second. I just want to give people time to come on in here to listen to this Google Hangout. I'm going to wait till I get a couple of more people and then we'll get started. Also, I may open it up so more people can join the discussion. You know, I may send people links. So just let me know in the chat room if you're interested in joining the discussion. If I'm familiar with your channel, I will send you the link. Shout out to Def Rocker. Peace and blessings to you. We're going to get started in a few minutes. I just want to give people time to tune in before we get started. And just let me know if you can hear me okay. So Def Rocker, if you can let me know if you hear me okay, you know, I would appreciate it. You can just put a 1 in the chat room just to let me know that you can hear me. We'll get started in a second. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Childish Gambino's video. I'm going to go into more detail about the symbolism in the video. Also, I'm going to respond to a lot of people who have criticized me for my video comparing Issa Rae to Donald Glover. So I look forward to going through those comments, you know, responding to people who were critical. You know, there were quite a few people that were critical of that video in the comment section. It was just about split in half in terms of the thumbs ups and thumbs down. I got more thumbs down than thumbs up. So I want to go into that video and just clarify some things. Usually I don't like to do this. You know, usually I just put my videos out there. If people are feeling it, they're feeling it. If not, they're not. And I just move on to the next video, the next upload, and just leave things where they are. But tonight I just want to comment. I want to respond to people who have had critical things to say about that video. So let's get started. So first I want to go through the video. And I'll provide a link in the description box for those who watch this later, who haven't seen the video. I think by now just about everybody has seen the video. But I'm going to share my screen for a couple of minutes. I'm going to show you all a couple of articles that I saw. One is on the Griot and one is on another source. So if you all can bear with me for a second, I'm going to show my screen. Okay, so this article right here on the Griot goes through some powerful messages from Donald Glover's video entitled "This Is America." And he goes by the name Childish Gambino for his rap music. So I'm going to go through a couple of these things. And then also what I want to do is I want to respond to a video that I saw that Seren posted. For those of you who don't know, Seren is a popular YouTuber on here, African-American woman who puts up great content. I'll put a link to her video in the description box as well. And the reason why I'm going to talk about her video is because a couple of people recommended that I check out her video. I had a chance to check it out a while ago, and I just want to respond to some of the things that she said in her video. But first, I want to go through some of the powerful messages in this video that Donald Glover posted. Now, the first point that this article notes is the Jim Crow elements of the video. You know, it has modern day depictions of minstrels. And basically, Donald Glover is making facial expressions that are reminiscent of the way that minstrels used to be portrayed in drawings and, in acting. There are other images, like you see this image right here where you have one eye open and one eye closed and this wild, crazy looking grin on his face. That's reminiscent of the coon image. As you see here, you see the image of the coon. This says coon chicken in. So that's a minstrel image that's being portrayed here. It's a minstrel image that Donald Glover is presenting to the world. And then also, there's some other images. Right here, you see this image of Jim Crow, of the coon right here with his, his butt sticking out and all that kind of stuff, looking clownish, looking buffoonish. And that's what Donald Glover does. He portrays that type of image while he's dancing in this particular video. And I think that this is a profound message. It's a message about today's hip hop movement. That's what I think. I think that it is a message about today's hip hop. It's a message about the popular entertainment that you see on television for African American consumption and for American people consumption. When you look at hip hop today, it is a modern day minstrel show. And what I want to do is show some images. But before I get into that, I'll say this, in terms of it being a modern day minstrel show, you have to look at the violent element as well. In this particular video, This Is America, Donald Glover's character kills African Americans. And after he does so, he puts on this ridiculous type of minstrel type of dance. And I think that that is symbolic of how modern hip hop has become a minstrel show. It is a minstrel show in the sense that it celebrates negative stereotypes about African Americans, stereotypes of Black people being violent, of Black people being uncivilized. And that's what you have in this. You have a Black man killing Black people and then dancing right after killing Black people. And that's what takes place in today's hip hop. While they're dancing and they're playing catchy tunes, they are singing about genocide in Black communities. They are celebrating the death of Black people. So people become desensitized to the death of Black people. You have a culture, a music, art form that celebrates violence, that celebrates the gun, that has little regard for human life. And I think that the displays of violence in this particular video, in part, are about that violence in the art form, in the hip hop music. It started with the so-called gangster rap, and then it has moved on to so-called trap music. And you see all these images here. Nowadays you have these two guys right here, Gucci Mane and T.I. arguing about who started trap music. It's like arguing over who is the biggest coon. That's what that argument is like. Because trap music is nothing but a celebration of drug culture. It is a celebration of drug dealing. It's a celebration of killing. It's a celebration of the destruction of the Black community. But yet you have these two Black people fighting over who has the title to trap music, who is the one that started this ridiculous art form that is destroying our communities. And the trap, that's the dope house, basically. That's what they're celebrating. That's what these people are romanticizing and glamorizing. They're glamorizing the destruction of the Black community. They are the modern day coons. They are the modern day minstrels. And I think that that's what he's talking about. Low key, he's talking about these rap artists who present these negative images of Black people, who glorify death and destruction in Black communities. And I think that this music is toxic. This music that celebrates violence in our communities, it has an impact on our people. Just like They use music to sell things. They use rap artists and other entertainers to sell different products, whether we're talking about clothing, whether we're talking about alcoholic beverages. But instead of these people just selling particular products, they are selling a lifestyle. They are selling this idea that there's something fantastic about being a drug dealer, that there's something great about being a dope man, that there's something great and romantic about having guns and shooting people. So this is what this brother is talking about. And it kind of reminds me of Spike Lee's Bamboozled. You know, when he had those characters portraying the modern day minstrel show. We see the modern day minstrel show when we look at reality TV, when we look at these rap videos where you have the women portrayed as harlots, portrayed as prostitutes and strippers. That's the image that they are projecting for the world to see of Black people. And that's the image that this brother, Donald Glover, is touching upon in this profound video called This Is America. And I'm going to get into the gender war and all that kind of stuff in a minute after I go through some of the symbolism in this particular video. I'm going to read through a couple of these articles. You know, and one thing that comes out in this video, there's a scene where they actually show a man on a white horse. And we all are familiar with the pale horse that is talked about in the book of Revelations in the Bible. I believe, you know, as many people have speculated, like they have speculated in this article, that that's why they have this white horse in the video. That white horse is a powerful symbol. It is a symbol of the pale horse that is spoken of in the book of Revelations. And, you know, I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think that this is by design, and it was to convey a powerful message. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the verses from the Bible dealing with the pale horse, it's in Revelations chapter 6, verse 8. And it says this, it says, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth." So I don't think that this is a coincidence, man. I think that this is a profound image in this video that conveys a profound message about death, about the hell that our people are going through. And I've touched on other things that are in this video in terms of him talking about, the issue of guns, about guns in the community, the whole thing about the imagery in terms of how guns are more cherished by the society than human life. And that's something that's touched upon in this. This is the third point. In the video, they show him shoot several people. First, he shoots one man who's sitting in a chair. He shoots him in the back of the head. And after he shoots this man, and the man falls to the ground, people drag away the body as if it means nothing. But then he passes on the gun to someone else, and they cradle the gun. They wrap the gun up in a red covering or towel or something to that effect, and they treat that gun like it's a precious baby. They cover it and treat it like a precious baby. And that kind of reminds me of how this society places more value on guns than it does on people. After these mass shootings that have taken place, no action is taken. No gun control measures are put in place or anything like that. Business continues as usual. And people are more concerned about maintaining the right to bear all these different arms that aren't even useful in protecting the home. You know, you don't need an assault rifle to protect yourself and to protect your family. You don't need an assault rifle to go hunting. But yet this society places more value on somebody's right to have an assault style weapon, you know, on somebody's right to buy those bump stocks that make it possible for them to convert a semi-automatic gun into a fully automatic gun or a fully automatic assault rifle, enabling people to kill large numbers of people in a short period of time. So they are more concerned about these guns than they are about the people. And I think that that's what this symbolized, as many people have talked about in this article in particular. They talk about this. And it's just a disgrace, man, that we live in this society, and despite all these tragedies, despite Columbine, despite that shooting in Connecticut, where you had all those innocent children killed, despite that shooting that took place in Florida not too long ago, the shooting, another shooting that took place in Florida involving that Pulse nightclub, the shooting that took place in Las Vegas, all of these shootings taking place where innocent people are gunned down, and still Congress does not have the will to act. And people want to make it, you know, people want to make it like this is some kind of conspiracy to take away people's guns. No, it's not. Nobody's talking about taking away everybody's weapons. They're talking about reasonable gun control measures. You know, nobody needs an AK-47. Nobody needs, you know, all these assault style weapons and, you know, bump stocks and all that kind of stuff. Now, another point that they raised that's mentioned here in this article is about the kids watching. You know, while these killings are taking place, children are around, and children are dancing in this video. They're dancing to the music. They're witnessing the violence that has taken place. And I think that that's profound, because it's the children that are listening to these negative messages in these songs that are about killing, these songs that are about using all kinds of drugs, engaging in all kinds of risky and self-destructive behavior. It's the children that are consuming this garbage, this trash that is destroying their minds, destroying their spirits, and just destroying them, period. It's encouraging them to go down a path of self-destruction and death. Again, you know, they had that imagery of that pale horse, and on that pale horse was death. And with that pale horse came, you know, death and hell and all that stuff. And that's what our children are experiencing. You know, every day in cities like Baltimore, every other weekend, you hear about a large number of people being killed. You hear about these shootings taking place. And this music that we see in this popular culture is nothing but the soundtrack to the destruction of the Black community. And unfortunately, our children are consuming this trash. And, you know, another point that's raised in this video, and it's mentioned in this other article right here. I'll just jump to this other article real quick. You know, they talk about how, just hold on one second. Yeah, they talk about how phones are out and recording. You know, that's another element of this. Like, we know about all these police brutality incidents that are captured on video. And despite them being captured on video, unfortunately, the police still get away with killing Black people, and the society does nothing about it. We look at the situation involving Eric Garner, a young, well, not a young man, but a African-American man who was choked out, choked to death live on camera, and still to this day, there has been no justice. We look at the situation involving Philando Castile, shot and killed. We look at all these situations, the situation of Sam Dubose, shot and killed, and there's no justice. And the cameras are out, the phones are out, and you're capturing this, but nothing is happening. And these people continue to get away with the modern day lynching of Black people. And this also reminds me of just how society has become. Like, we know about the whole phenomenon of World Star, where you have fights captured on video, you have people, instead of intervening to stop violence that they are witnessing, they want to record it so that they can entertain people with it, so that they can be amused by it, so that they can get views and likes and attention with these videos. So I think that this imagery is profound. It's conveying a profoundly deep message. And as I said in my first video analysis of this situation, you know, the fact that after people are killed, Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, and those who are in the video just dance like nothing has happened. That's just how society is. They continue on with business as usual. After these mass shootings, you know, for a second there's sorrow, for a second there's mourning, for a second there's prayer, and then after that it's business as usual and people are dancing along. You know, they continue dancing, continue celebrating as if nothing has happened. That's what this is like. That's what this video is conveying when they show the people continuing to dance after these killings and stuff. And we can look at the same with these police brutality incidents and with inner city violence that we all are very familiar with. In fact, the thing that's so profound about this, and going back to that whole point about the Jim Crow and the Minstrel show and all that kind of stuff, the thing that makes it so profound is that in this rap genre, people are literally dancing to destruction. They are literally dancing to songs that are talking about shooting people, you know, songs that are talking about drugs and destruction. They are literally dancing just like Childish Gambino's character in this video. So this is a profound video, man. And you know, a lot of people have talked about his name, Childish Gambino, being a mockery, and it is a mockery. It's a mockery of this whole gangster culture that we see in hip hop. You know, the name Gambino is from one of these crime families, and his name Childish is like talking about how this is childish, how these people are basically, you know, caught up into this ridiculous glorification of crime and violence in the gangster lifestyle. So, you know, I think that this is deep, to say the least, and I'm really interested in hearing what y'all have to say. I'm going to look at in the comment section in a second. And this is another point that's raised in the video. You know, they talk about how he is running from the sunken place at the very end of that video. And if you look at this, you can see that there are white people chasing him. There are white people chasing him in this scene where he's running out. And those of you who saw Get Out, you understand what the sunken place is. If you will recall, like in that film, there was a mother, a white lady, who hypnotized African Americans. And by hypnotizing them, she gained control over them. And when she would hypnotize them, they would literally go to the sunken place where they would no longer have control over themselves. They would be controlled by this white woman, this white hypnotist. And once they controlled them, they would actually take over their mind, you know, using surgery as well. But still, there would be remnants of who they really were. And, you know, there's a scene in that movie, Get Out, where this brother is acting very strange. And at one point, the main character in the film accidentally flashes the light on his phone, and it snaps this guy out of the sunken place briefly. And he regains his consciousness for a second, and he tells that other brother to get out of there, because these people are trying to take over not only his mind, but over his body as well. So he's warning him to get out. And then there's also a scene where one of these brothers who was in the sunken place snapped out of it for a second and is running at night towards the main character. And that's what this kind of represents. He's running away from this sunken place. And the sunken place could be the culture of this society that tells you that you need to be that minstrel, that you need to be that coon for entertainment's sake, so that you can get the fame and the fortune and all that kind of stuff. And he's literally running away from that in this video. So needless to say, man, I think that this is a profoundly deep video. And I heard some criticism of this. Some people said, well, he doesn't portray strength. This is promoting black on black violence. It's not promoting it, it's condemning it. That's what it's doing. And also it's speaking to violence in society in general. And that brings me to this this other article that I was looking at, going back to this article from the Griot. I'll post both of these articles in the description box. But there's a reference to, I think it's in that other article. There's a reference to the shooting of the choir. Yeah, right here. And I talked about this in my first video on this subject, about how that choir represents those victims who were shot in the church in Charleston, South Carolina. They were shot and killed by Dylan Roof. So even though in this video you have Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, shooting the gun, he not only symbolizes the black coon or the black minstrel or the modern day Jim Crow image. He also represents just the violence in general in society. He represents the violence that Dylan Roof committed when he killed those innocent people in that church. So I think that this video is deep. I think it's profound. And, I just think that it's unfortunate that these gender politics are detracting away from the message behind this video. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I'm going to go to your comments before I move on. Okay, I see that we have a few people in here. So I'm going to scroll back through your comments and shout you all out. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Shout out to Yummy. Shout out to Concrete Jungle. Again, shout out to Def Rocker. Shout out to Stakes is High. All right, so let me look at what you all are saying. Yeah, I see that Def Rocker said you noticed that his dancing in the beginning looked like the picture of the Sambo dancing. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I really didn't notice at first until I started reading these articles. Like, I noticed that it was different. The way he was dancing was odd and out of place. It looked very unusual and just out of order given what was happening in the music video. So that's what I noticed. But then when I saw these articles where they did a side-by-side comparison to his expressions and his gestures and stuff like that, it became apparent to me that their analysis was correct. That in fact, he was emulating the Sambo, the coon, the minstrel and stuff like that in the video to make a larger point, a profound point at that. Yeah, I see the Def Rocker said he's been into hip hop since 1982, and it's a shame how toxic rap is now. Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm old enough to have witnessed hip hop. The very first hip hop song come out, like it was on the radio, at least that I can remember. I mean, you've had precursors to it, like you've had poets like the Last Poets, and people that would rap in their own type of way. You could go back to a Dolomite or even an activist like H. Rap Brown. Rap was part of his name because of the way he could speak it well and all that kind of stuff in a profound and articulate kind of way. But yeah, I've witnessed the evolution of hip hop. There was a time like during the 80s in the early 90s, hip hop had a diverse message. You had fun hip hop, you had different types of hip hop. You had the conscious hip hop, you had gangster hip hop with the Ice-T or NWA. You also had that conscious hip hop, like with the KRS-One or Public Enemy or X-Clan or Brand Nubian and stuff like that. And then you also had like fun hip hop, like a MC Hammer or somebody like that. It was just about fun, or like a Kid and Play or Fresh Prince, you know, stuff like that. So you had different types of messages in hip hop. You had a Tribe Called Quest. But at the same time, during that time, you also had the negative hip hop. Like you had you know, somebody like a Too Short rapping about, you know, misogyny and all that kind of stuff. So you had diversity. And while at the same time you had misogynistic music, you also had music uplifting Black women at the same time. Like I remember the songs Ladies First by Queen Latifah and, you know, Unity, you know, by Queen Latifah and other songs celebrating Black women, elevating Black women and stuff. But now hip hop is degenerated, man, where the negativity has taken over, man. I mean, even though you have different artists like a Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole, they're not the dominant voices in hip hop. You know, they are important voices, but in terms of radio play, the vast majority of the music celebrates that gang lifestyle, celebrates drug dealing, celebrates violence, celebrates misogyny, celebrates drug use and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been like overshadowed. Like, you know, even though you still have elements of diversity, you still have creative, groundbreaking artists, their voices don't receive as much attention as the negativity does. And I see someone said, I don't want to see more Black people being buffoons. It breaks my heart every time. Oh, and also, Def Rocker said the white horse can be seen as the overseer. Yeah, like an overseer on a plantation. That's another way to see it. That's a great example. You know, that's another image that, you know, that can portray. So Lord praised us, said the song is good, I won't lie, but he's a fraud. And I'm going to get into that in a second, you know, about whether or not Donald Glover is a fraud and what is meant by that. You know, and I'll just address, you know, an aspect of that right now. You know, when I see people like want to attack him, you know, it reminds me of what's known as an ad hominem attack. Like instead of like focusing on whether or not the message of the video is on point or whether the imagery is profound or whether he's conveying some positive message or just some enlightening message or something that's thought-provoking or artistic, people want to focus on him as an individual, when I really think that it should be beyond him as an individual. It should be about what kind of messages he conveying in his video. That's what it really should focus on. That should be the focus. But unfortunately, what has happened is instead of focusing on the actual video, you have a lot of people focusing on his relationship choices, focusing on, you know, past projects that he's been involved in, you know, past acting roles that he has played and stuff like that, or, you know, going through his whole history of his comedy acts and all that kind of stuff to basically use all that stuff to blot out and negate the profound message in this particular song. And really, I think that I just don't agree with that. I mean, I think that people, I don't have any problem with somebody holding somebody accountable or someone criticizing an individual. But I do have a problem with people saying, well, you shouldn't even listen to that video or watch it simply because of who created it. You know, I think that the project should stand on its own and it should be judged on its own, just like arguments should be judged on their own instead of being judged by who is putting forth the argument. But I mean, I understand the concerns that women have, that the sisters have about him and his relationship choices. But I'll go into that a little bit later. That's going to be the next subject that I touch on after I go through these comments. Okay, so Def Rocker said, which video do you think is more powerful, Fight the Power by Public Enemy or this Childish Gambino one? And I want to touch on that because I was watching a hangout that Rashid For You did, and she was talking about how this Childish Gambino video doesn't portray strength. It doesn't show Black people in a strong light or Black people overcoming something. And I think that that's a fair point, but it's a different message. This video that Childish Gambino did has a different message than from, a different message from Fight the Power, for instance. So it's not going to have the same imagery. It's not going to, be an empowerment type of video necessarily. So it's a different type of video, and I don't think that it can be judged by the standards of, a Fight the Power type of video or some other kind of Black empowerment video. Because when you look at the video, even though it deals with the minstrel show and there are elements of Black culture, it is not a quote unquote Black consciousness type of video. It is not a Black nationalist type of video. That's apparent, just from the messaging. The message is about the things that, I touched on briefly. And I'm sure that there are more messages behind this. And I'm interested in hearing from you all. What other things that you see in that particular video that I didn't even cover? I'm sure that there's much more that can be talked about. So let me finish going. And then, like, in terms of the comparison, in terms of which one was more powerful, I like the Fight the Power video. I like that video. But in terms of symbolism, it didn't have as much symbolism as this. And it didn't, the message of Fight the Power is simple. Just fight the power. Fight the powers that be. Fight against injustice in society. And that's an important message. That's a deep message. That's a necessary message. But in terms of the artistry, in terms of the symbolism, I don't think that it's on the level of this Childish Gambino video. Of course, like in terms of which one I like better in terms of the actual song, I would say that I like Fight the Power more, because I think the lyrics are more profound. And that's one thing that I need to point out. Like this video called This Is America, the actual lyrics are not that profound. The actual lyrics don't even go that deep. Like he touches on some of the elements in the video, but the lyrics are very abstract in a sense. They're not in your face. They're not as direct as a Fight the Power and stuff like that. So in terms of the actual song, I would say that I like Fight the Power more, but in terms of the actual video, I would have to go with Childish Gambino. In terms of the creativity, in terms of the symbolism, in terms of the cinematography, the way it was shot, and just all the elements of it. I think that it was more entertaining than, Fight the Power. Okay, so Bonafide 1970 says, thanks so much for the analytical breakdown of the video. And up to this point, you haven't watched it. I'm surprised that you haven't watched it. But I encourage you to check it out. There's so many elements in that video that you can't catch every element just by watching it once. I've watched it several times. And I like the rhythm of it. That's something that I didn't talk about in this video. But I like the rhythm of the song. I like the instrumentals, the beat of it. I think that the beat is like moving. It moves you. It touches you and stuff. So that's one of the things that I like about it. And Bonafide 1970 said the attack on Donald Glover reminds me of the attack on Nate Parker. Exactly. That's what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. And I understand why people are raising the issue, why they are, raising this whole issue, because a lot of times you have these woke people who are in these interracial relationships, quote unquote woke people who are in these interracial relationships. And that's like a contradiction. You can't really be woke if you're still in these interracial relationships. If you are truly woke and you love your people, then you would prefer to be with your own. And it's just that simple. So I think that even though somebody may have put out a powerful message and stuff like that, I still think that they have a long way to go towards Black consciousness. But I don't think that because they're in this interracial relationship, that means that automatically their projects have to be negated. Automatically, they have to be written off as frauds, as irrelevant and stuff like that. I don't condone that. And it's just a shame that you have people that do that, man. They want to just discount this brother because he's in some marriage with a white woman and stuff like that. Or some relationship. And the same is true with Nate Parker. People want to discount, some people, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, there are people that wanted to discount that entire film, negate the film, Birth of a Nation, simply because Nate Parker is married to a white woman. And I think that that's ignorant, because if we were to stop watching every film that involved a Black woman or a Black man that's in an interracial relationship, we might as well throw our TVs in the trash. We might as well never go to the movies ever again, going by that standard. Now, Tanya Jones said it's not so much about his relationship choice as he has bashed Black women his whole career, as recent as last week on his Atlanta show. He is not, I don't see him as bashing Black women. I mean, I would like to hear more information about how he's bashing Black women. This man, unlike Issa Rae, he didn't write any books or anything like that. He didn't make any statements encouraging Black men not to be with Black women. He didn't suggest that Black women were unsuitable. Like Issa Rae said that, suggested that Black men are unsuitable suitors for this educated Black woman. He hasn't said anything like that I'm aware of. He had an episode in Atlanta that featured one Black woman who was hostile to a white woman who was involved in an interracial relationship. That's one Black woman. Just like Spike Lee had a woman in his film. What was the name of that film? Jungle Fever, where Spike Lee, had Queen. I think it was Queen Latifah, right? Queen Latifah was playing the role of a waitress, and Wesley Snipes was at this African American restaurant with a white woman, and Queen Latifah gave that couple hell because they were in an interracial relationship. I don't think that, those types of roles are like necessarily attacking all Black women. I mean, we know for a fact that there's some Black women that have hostility towards these interracial couples, these couples where there's a Black man with a white woman. That's not a stereotype. That's something that's a reality. Now, they may not be as animated and all that kind of stuff as that character on Atlanta, but that's one character. That's not saying that all Black women are like that. And I don't think that that's the message that he was conveying. It was one character that took on that kind of role. Show me where he has made some kind of derogatory statements about Black women, and I may reevaluate my assessment. Like, if you can show me where he said Black men need to get away from the Black woman, like some of these YouTube coons say. I mean, if you can show me something like that, then I'll reevaluate my position. But at the most that you can show me is a character that he played, that he had on Atlanta, one character that he had on Atlanta, and the fact that he's with some white woman, I need more than that. The fact that he, there was a clip that somebody had in their video, and I talked about this in my last video, where he's talking about some experience that he had with some white woman or whatever, some sexual experience, and this woman called him the N-word. He got off by that. I condemn that as coon behavior in my video. But apparently, a lot of the people that criticized my video didn't even watch the whole thing. Because if they did, they would have heard me call out that coonish type of behavior. They would have heard me condemn that. Okay, so I'm going to go on. So Tanya Jones says, I don't really get all the hoopla over Glover's video. Didn't black people already know we are oppressed, that guns are out of control, that state violence seeks to keep black folks in fear? Yeah, I mean, people knew those things, but you didn't have a piece of art express those kind of messages in this kind of way. So that's what the hoopla is about. It's about the imagery. It's about the messaging. It's about the artist, the artistry of the particular video. That's what it's about. That's why it's being celebrated. And it's not, the fact that it's being celebrated by so many people says a lot. The fact that people are drawn to a discussion about this video, the fact that you have all these blogs written about this particular video speaks for itself. The fact that you have all these major news outlets covering this says a lot about the particular video. And that reminds me of something that I want to get into. I saw this video that a YouTuber that I like, Seren, posted. I watched the video after a couple of people in comment sections recommended that I do so. And basically, she was saying how she's not a Childish Gambino fan. She doesn't like his music. She's not too crazy about him or whatever. And she was saying that she just gets certain vibes and her spidey sense goes off. She just has a feeling that somehow Donald Glover doesn't like black women and doesn't like black people and feels like he's some special Negro that's different from the rest of black people. And my response to that part of her video is simple. I think that before you can dismiss somebody as not liking black women or not liking black people, you need more than just vibes, more than just spidey senses, more than just some kind of feeling and some kind of opinion. You need actual facts to back that up. And I think that her video was very light on actual facts to back up that kind of position. And she even acknowledges that it's just an opinion and all that kind of stuff. And I'll say this, like in terms of Childish Gambino, I'm not a fan of his music, even though I'm a hip hop person. I love hip hop. I'm not a fan of his music, like other than this song. I'm not someone who's listened to a lot of his albums or anything like that. I remember back in the day, my nephew tried to get me to check him out. He gave me that Camp CD that Childish Gambino has. I checked it out for a hot second, but after that, I just put it down and I didn't, follow up and listen to any more of it. I didn't, buy any of his albums or whatever, because I really think that his message is for a younger generation. I can't relate to the message in his songs, at least back then. And I haven't followed his music like that. So I concur with her in terms of Childish Gambino's music. I also concur with her when she says that, his character on Atlanta is the weaker link on the show. The other characters are stronger, and they portray themselves well, and they do a great job. But I like his character too, but his character is not as strong. So in that respect, I agree with her. Another point that I disagree with her on is her assessment of the video. Like, what she made a point to say, well, I'm not going to review the video. I don't have any interest in watching it. But then, despite saying that, she proceeds to review the video, and she reviews it based on clips that she saw instead of based on watching and analyzing the actual video itself. So I think that that's problematic. I think it's problematic for somebody to judge something before they have even had an opportunity to watch it. And another point that I want to make is this, and it's no offense or anything, no offense to her or people that disagree or whatever, but it's simple. It's like this: asking people to appreciate that video is much like asking somebody to appreciate a piece of fine art. And that, yeah, let me go to that point. Like she was saying, like this was amateurish. You know, that's another thing that she was saying is amateurish. You know, it's like something that somebody would do as a art school dropout or whatever, somebody that took a basic arts class and this and that. Again, how can you say that if you haven't watched the video? The second point is this, you know, as I was trying to point out before, it's like expecting somebody to appreciate fine art. It's like putting a piece of Basquiat artwork before someone that doesn't know anything about art, or putting a Picasso masterpiece before somebody that doesn't know anything about art, doesn't appreciate art, or putting a Van Gogh piece or a Jacob Lawrence piece in front of them. People that don't appreciate fine art, they won't appreciate it. They won't appreciate those art geniuses or whatever. They will see that as scribble scrabble or some childish work, or even a Pollock painting or something like that. They would not appreciate the greatness of those works. Much like how it says in, you know, in the Bible. You know, there's a verse in the Bible somewhere that talks about putting pearls before swine. Like swine are not going to appreciate pearls. Swine are not going to appreciate diamonds. And that's what I feel, you know, that's how I feel with some of these people that want to crap on this video. I just don't think that they are appreciating the genius behind it, man. That's just the way I feel, man. And I know people have difference of opinion and this and that, but that's how I genuinely feel about this video. I think that it is unique compared to many videos that you see in terms of music. Like when you look at most of these hip hop videos, they follow the same basic formula. You know, back to this whole minstrel show and, you know, motif or piece. You know, you got the guys flashing money, you know, money stacked up to their ear, pretending like it's a cell phone. All you have to do is look at World Star Hip Hop, and you'll see all these videos that basically look like the same video over and over again. You'll have a bunch of women half naked, you know, shaking their butts in front of the camera. You'll have people popping bottles and this and that, you know, driving some fancy car. That's the formula that you see with most of these hip hop videos. You'll see a bunch of models, you know, fake models with fake hair, fake plastic body parts, you know, airbrushed to perfection. That's what you'll see. That's what you'll see, man. And it's refreshing to see something different. But instead of appreciating that, you have these people crapping on this man because of his relationship choices. So let me go on. But I want to thank y'all for tuning in, even if y'all disagree with me or whatever. At least this one's not doing as bad as the other one that the other video that I did. I'm going to show some of the comments to that video in a second after I go through your comments here. And Def Rocker said, like Rakim said, it's a de-evolution stage. You know, hip hop is in a de-evolution stage. Yeah, I mean, especially when you see like these people, these clowns, like that guy, Tekashi 6ix9ine or whatever. I mean, that guy is a modern day minstrel. This is not even a black person, but yet he's taking on this black culture, you know, making a mockery of black people, you know, with this minstrel show, you know, celebrating the gang lifestyle and looking like a complete idiot with rainbow hair and rainbow teeth. And then you got these guys, and I'll just share my screen real quick. These guys that are literally dressing up like women, you know, wearing dresses. And this is y'all hip hop generation. I mean, not mine. I mean, look at this. This is your generation of hip hop, man. This is what hip hop has become, where you got guys wearing purses, dresses and carrying purses. This is your hip hop. This is the minstrel. And people want to talk about this guy, Donald Glover, and the way he was dancing. They were saying like he's effeminate and this and that. Some of his moves were effeminate. But when you look at hip hop where it is, that's nothing compared to this. That's nothing compared to this, where you have rap artists in dresses. Nothing compared to this. This is what they're promoting right now. This is your hip hop. All these guys coming out with dresses. You got guys doing their nails like women, painting their nails. I was on this panel, I think it was a couple of years ago, and I saw this guy, he had, on this YouTube panel, and this guy had nail polish on. I was like, what the hell? I mean, I was like looking at it, like wondering if I'm seeing things or whatnot, and this guy literally had nail polish on. But this is your generation of hip hop, man. This is what is being popularized nowadays, man. This stuff. It's crazy, man. It is actually crazy. And I was watching this guy do this video talking about how Donald Glover's video was gay as F, basically gay. I'm trying not to use any profanity, but gay as F, basically. And, so you had a couple of people. I would say more, but I'm going to chill. I don't need no beef or anything like that. So I'll just chill. But you have a lot of people saying this stuff about this video. And I didn't see it like that, man. I think that people are overblowing that issue, making it much bigger than it is. So Stakes is High said Donald Glover is doing real hip hop. He's doing music that the culture is intended to promote. Lorianne Wilson said, why do you think hip hop is as toxic as it is today and promoted so much as it is today? That's a deep question. I think part of it is because, and I don't have any proof of this, at least not right now. I think that part of it is an effort to derail the consciousness that we saw in hip hop. I mean, at the time when I was really listening to hip hop, back when I was back in the 80s and 90s, hip hop was a source of consciousness, man. It was a form of music that inspired people to want to read about Malcolm X, inspired people to want to learn who Joanne Chesimard is, aka Assata Shakur. It made people want to know about the Black Panthers. It made people want to know who Huey P. Newton is, want to know who Farrakhan is, want to learn more about Malcolm X. That was hip hop. Hip hop borrowed images from the Black consciousness movement. It was a source of inspiration. Like they had images, like that popular image of Malcolm by the window with his gun in his hand, his rifle in his hand. Those types of images were popular during the height of hip hop, during one of the best periods of hip hop. You had Black people getting rid of gold chains and wearing the Africa medallions, celebrating their African history, loving being Black. I remember going to school seeing shirts that said, it's a Black thing you wouldn't understand. There was a consciousness. You had groups like Public Enemy. You had groups like X-Clan. You had groups like Brand Nubian and others. And Rakim paved the way for the consciousness stuff because he was talking to 5% teachings back then, which inspired people to have pride. Despite my disagreements with the theology, it taught people to have pride in themselves, to believe in themselves, to do for themselves, to love who they are. So I think that because of that consciousness, there was an effort to undermine that by elevating and celebrating the negative aspects of hip hop. You know, and I think the beginning of the end was NWA, man. And a lot of that negative music that came from the West Coast of this country, man. I think that that was the beginning of the end of hip hop. Because nowadays, you know, that message is dominant now, when it was just one of many voices in the culture. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a few more comments. So Ali said the song can't exist without the video. Um, I think that that's a good point about, like, if you just had the song by itself, I don't think it would be as popular as it is right now. I don't think that there would be as much discussion about it because it's not really heavy on lyrics. You know, it's very light on lyrics. The video is heavy on messaging, but I think that that's a valid point. Def Rocker said the music is being promoted by design. The three big companies, Warner, Universal, and EMI, control the radio play. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a valid point. Yeah, so Def Rocker said that Donald Glover's video isn't about Black empowerment. So his relationship um, with, I guess the woman is half white, half Asian. I don't know all the, yeah, I just know that she's non-Black. I thought she was white. It doesn't bother him because this song is not about Black empowerment. And it's not like a Black nationalist song, and it's not like some Black consciousness song. um, Completely. You know, it does touch on some elements, but it's not a Black empowerment song at all. Okay, so someone said, with all due respect, have you seen Spike Lee's wife? He may not be the best example for people to take issue with Glover. I mean, his wife is a Black woman, even though she's light skinned. I mean, I don't know why that would disqualify Spike Lee from having any issue or some criticism or support for Donald Glover. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about, Sensei. And I don't have any problem with her. Again, I support her work. I just disagree with that one video that she did about. Shout out to Real Aaron Collins. Yeah, I'm just getting back with my Google Hangouts. And I plan, hopefully, I'll have one tomorrow with a political candidate. So y'all look out for that. I see somebody said, well, didn't Kanye wear a skirt once? Yeah, he did. And that's one, I think that was one of the images that I showed with Kanye with a skirt on. Somebody started laughing. Uh, Carson Lee said, seeing a guy with nail polish, maybe I'm seeing this. He said that made him smile. Yeah, that's crazy, man. It was crazy. But I mean, that's the new normal nowadays. Yeah, that's a good point, Bonafide 1970. Hip hop was about masculinity, man, but now it's like all feminine, man. You know, you got guys with purses and dresses and earrings and this and that. It's crazy, man. That's not the hip hop I know. Yeah, so I'm gonna show some comments from my video about the difference between Donald Glover and Issa Rae. I want to respond to some comments there before I close out. And this will probably be the last time I'll be talking about this Donald Glover thing. For those of you who haven't seen my original videos, I'll post a link to them in the cards or the description box after this upload. So I'm going to make this kind of quick. So this is the video that I did on the difference between Donald Glover and Issa Rae. And really it was a response to this other YouTuber, Chrissy. A link to her video is in that video that I did. Again, I'll post a link to this in the cards or in the description box once I get a chance to. All right, so somebody said I don't support anyone who doesn't support me. And I see that a lot of people like that comment. But what do you mean by support? Like the fact that he's married to a white woman, that means automatically he doesn't support all black women. He has some problem with all black women. I don't think that that's necessarily true. I don't think that just because somebody is in an interracial marriage that means that they have some kind of hostility towards all black women. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And before I get into this, you know, people that watch my channel know that I support black love. You know, I support the idea that black men should be with black women and vice versa. So don't get it messed up. So I'm going to go through some of these comments real quick. It's a lot of comments, so I'm not going to, you know, go through all of them, but I'll touch on a couple of them before I close out. Okay, so this person said, I can't take you seriously on this subject ever again. You literally validated Issa Rae's entire point in her 2-page chapter urging black women to date out. I mean, how did I validate that point? I mean, explain that to me. How did I validate her point about black women needing to date out? I mean, there's nothing that I said to validate that point. I mean, my point here was that it's one thing for someone to make a personal decision to marry or date outside of their race. It's quite another thing for that person to basically encourage black women as a group, as a collective, to date outside of their race. It's another thing for someone to basically suggest that black men are not suitable suitors. That's quite different from somebody making an individual choice to be in an interracial relationship. So that was the distinction that I made. And that distinction doesn't mean that I co-sign everything that Donald Glover has said and done. Obviously, I don't, as I pointed out in this video. So this person basically said, they pointed out how it's about why they do what they do because of how they view their own community. Now, I mean, it's possible that, you know, without a doubt that his relationship choices may reflect like his attitude, it may reflect like his self-esteem or whatever as an individual. It may reflect that. But that's not the same as if him, you know, him putting out some message basically literally telling people black men to date outside of their race. Like, you know, that YouTuber, the Mad Bus Driver, and other black men who basically encourage black men to go outside of their race. That would be worthy of condemnation. That would be worthy of the kind of hostility that people are expressing towards this guy. And it's just convenient, the timing of this whole thing. I mean, nobody was, I mean, I didn't see all this outrage until after this guy put out this profound video. I mean, I didn't see these discussions like this about this guy like this. But because he puts out some video, all of a sudden people want to talk about this stuff. And again, like I've said before, like I think that, you know, somebody, just because they are in an interracial marriage or dating or something like that, doesn't disqualify them from talking about issues such as police brutality or issues such as racism. They have every right to talk about these things. They have every right to do a video about gun control and violence in society. And I think that it's just plain illogical to think that they don't have that right. And someone else did a video, and you see it right here. I'm not going to click it on or anything like that. And, you know, this is Olivia R. You know, and I like her content. She's a great YouTuber. I have respect for her and everything. But somehow she was suggesting that I had a double standard in this video, like because I was talking about like how there's a difference between these two situations, that somehow I had a double standard when I do not. You know, I don't support, you know, I'm not a fan of interracial relationships. You know, I think that, again, black men need to be with black women and vice versa. And my statements about some women being, you know, bitter and having baggage, that was not a generalization about all black women or even most black women. I was talking about a limited group of women who are openly hostile to people like a Donald Glover, you know, who are openly hostile to Nate Parker and others. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about those types of individuals that focus on those types of things, that are so hostile to those types of situations. I was talking about those people. I wasn't talking about all black women or even most black women. Most black women couldn't care less about who Donald Glover is with. They don't lose any sleep over him being married to some white woman or anything like that. And the same is true with a Nate Parker. So I'm going to look at a couple of more comments before I close out. Now, this person said he jumped on a pro-black bandwagon and people eating it up. You know, you're eating it up, willfully ignoring his conscious erasing of his own blackness. Again, this is not some pro-black video. I mean, it's not a pro-black. It's not necessarily a pro-black video. It raises different issues that can touch on race, but race is not the primary subject of the video. So it is not a quote-unquote pro-black video. It's more profound than that. I mean, it's not more profound than that. It has other type of messages behind that than that. And then this person talked about me concerning myself with Bachelorette. The reason why I brought that up is to talk about the hypocrisy, man. How you had this woman who does a video complaining about these black men who date outside of their race while she's celebrating black men, black women, while she's celebrating black women who do the same thing. That's the reason why I brought that up, to call out the hypocrisy, man, to call out the foolishness. Because, I mean, to me, that's just idiotic. It is idiotic for someone to be whining and crying about a Donald Glover marrying outside of his race, or about a Wesley Snipes being with some Asian woman, or about a Nate Parker marrying some white woman, when you celebrate these black women who date and marry outside of their race? How does that make any kind of sense? How does it make any kind of sense for you to condemn one and not the other? How does it make any kind of sense for you to celebrate one and condemn the other? How does that make any kind of sense? You got these people on here happy that Serena Williams is with some white man. You got these people on here happy about this bachelorette passing over these black men. You got these people out here co-signing Issa Rae's foolishness, co-signing her statements about black men not being suitable suitors, co-signing her statements about some Asian guys being a good choice for black women. But these same women had the nerve, had the gall, had the audacity to cry about some black male celebrity dating outside of his race or marrying outside of their race. How does that make any kind of sense? That's the reason why I brought it up. And the reason why The Bachelorette is relevant is because it's not just some individual choosing to be with some white guy. This took place on a national stage, on an international stage, as a matter of fact, where you had this black woman who had all these black options, you know, had all these people that were quote unquote suitable suitors, but they weren't good enough for her. That tells the whole world that the black man is not good enough for the educated black woman, even though these were educated black men. But y'all are okay with that. Y'all don't have no problem with that. Y'all are happy and cheering that this black woman chose that white man. But then at the same time, you got the nerve to be upset about a Donald Glover being with some white woman. When half of these people complaining about him, they wouldn't even give this guy the time of day if he wasn't rich and famous. So come on now. Come on now. Y'all got me fired up, man. I mean, and that's something that's typical with Chrissy. I mean, I like some of her content, but people like her, they are not about like black empowerment. They are about black, or even let me make it more particular, they are about dark-skinned black women empowerment. You know, even more narrow than a lot of these others on here that are just about black women and couldn't care less about the black community. They consider the black community Blackistan. I'm not saying that that's her. Chrissy doesn't view the black community as Blackistan, but the black community plays a second fiddle to the situation involving dark-skinned women in their dating options. You know, there's very little, there's slight distinctions between somebody like a Crystalline Karasin and Chrissy. I mean, they both are open to this interracial thing. So, but anyway, that's a whole nother subject. Let me just move on. Now, this person said, well, New Possibilities, you're right about a lot, but you're dead wrong on this. Firstly, Chrissy was talking about the full outrage by black men when it came to Issa Rae. Yet it's cool and breezy to say I like black women mixed with Asian, blah, blah, blah. She says that Glover jokes with tiresome black women hatred tropes. I mean, I keep hearing this, but I want to see this stuff, man. I want to see like concrete examples of him disrespecting black women. That's what I want to see, you know. And I'm not defending, you know, the things that some of the things that he said, as I pointed out in this video right here. This the difference between those two. I pointed out the things that I disagree with. So I'm not defending him. You know, I'm defending the video that he did. You know, I'm defending his right to convey a message, you know, and not have that message blotted out because people don't like his personal choices, etc. And she says this guy, I mean, the guy dislikes black women. Just because he's in an interracial marriage or relationship, that doesn't necessarily means he dislikes black women. I mean, I need to have some proof. I need something, again, more than just vibes or more than just some impression or whatever. Where's the statement where he says, I don't like black women? Where's the statement where he says, I encourage black men not to date black women? Where are these statements? Where are the statements about how black women are not suitable? Where are those statements? If you produce those statements, then I'll retract what I've said. But so far, I haven't seen anything like that. Okay, I think and so this person said words speak louder than word. Yeah, words. So words speak louder than actions. That's not what I'm saying, man. I'm just saying that the actions that you're looking at don't necessarily mean that this guy has hostility towards black women. They don't necessarily mean that. And then this person said, Issa never said anything about black men. You're projecting. All right, let's just pull up what she said, man. Let's pull up what she said. Just bear with me a second. I'll pull up the article that I used in that first video about Issa Rae. So this person said, Issa never said anything about black men. You're projecting. Okay, let's see if I'm projecting or not. Okay. All right, so it says, she said, there is a widening gap between the education of black women and men, which doesn't leave very many suitable suitors. Meaning that there aren't many suitable black men for black women. I mean, how much more plain can you get than that? And it says, unfortunately, the higher one's degree as a black woman, the lower your chances are of getting married. So how is that not saying something negative about black men when she says, which doesn't leave very many suitable suitors based on education? So, I mean, that right there just debunks this statement that this person is making right here. So this person says, Donald hasn't explicitly stated that black men should look elsewhere, but is rampant through most of his work and his own personal life. Now you could say, his personal, I mean, but that's based on assumptions. The fact that he's, again, the fact that he's in this relationship, you're assuming that because of that, he has some kind of hostility towards black women. That's an assumption. And then you say his idea that black men should look elsewhere is rampant through his work. Again, I need examples. I need examples of that. So I think I made my point. There's no need to go any further with through the commentary. So I'm going to look at your comments before I close out. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in again. Let's see. Yeah, there we are. So let me go back up. And I see somebody said, watch Atlanta. I watch Atlanta regularly. I'm familiar with at least season 2. I tried to watch. I got a problem with my DVD player. I tried to watch season 1. I got to get caught up on season 1, but I've seen all of season 2, and I don't see this negative. I mean, I saw one episode where you had this one angry black woman complaining about this white woman being with this black man, and I think that you need more than that to suggest that Donald Glover has some animosity towards black women, or doesn't like black women, or is conveying some message that black men should get out and stop dating black women. You need more than that to convey that message. Okay, so I'm going through your comments now. So this person basically says that I intimated that Issa Rae's satire was worse than Danny Glover's actions. No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying, as I said before, that there's a difference between somebody dating interracially and somebody having animosity towards black women. That's my point. There's a difference between somebody literally encouraging black women to date outside of their race and someone simply being in an interracial relationship. That was my point. I'm not saying that her satire was worse than, for instance, the jokes that the guy Donald Glover made about having some orgasm with a white woman who was calling him the N-word. Obviously that's worse than, I mean, you could say that that's worse than what Issa Rae wrote in her book, or on an equal level. And I called that behavior out. I said that that was coon behavior. If people listen to the whole video, I think that a lot of people jumped the gun before they even finished watching the video and made all kinds of assumptions. Yeah, and I've made my position clear, man. So it's not a double standard. And for anybody suggesting that there's a double standard, all you have to do is look at my content. I've done videos critical of black men who have preferences towards white women, who abandon black women. I've done videos critical of them, just like I have done videos critical of these black women who promote this idea that the white man is their Lord and Savior. That he's the answer to all their relationship problems. So people can miss me with the hypocrite argument. They can miss me with that because my record is well documented here. Yeah, people have done that. Ali, Emmett. I mean, people have done that. They have basically put it into a situation where they don't even view light-skinned black women as black. And I think that that's problematic. I mean, you have the people that say, well, biracial people aren't black and this and that. I think all that leads is to further division of the black community. I don't think that that solves the colorism issue. I don't think that that advances the fight for dark-skinned girls and women at all. Yeah, that's a good point. Like people, and I was watching some video. Yeah, it was on Vlad TV with Amara La Negra, excuse me, La Negra, and she was talking about like how in like certain parts of Latin America they have different racial categories. Like in America, we still live under the one drop rule in a lot of respects, where if somebody has a little ounce of blackness in their DNA, they're considered black in this society. So yeah, they have different ways of defining race in different places in the world. But I don't necessarily agree with the one drop rule, but as far as I'm concerned, biracial people, I view them as black, especially if they embrace their African heritage and they identify as black. And I think that that strengthens our community if we have, you know, with numbers come strength. And, you know, for us to further fragment ourselves and say, this one's not black, this one's not black enough, I think that that undermines our political power as a people. But that's a whole nother subject. I could go on and on for that. Shout out to Doug. Thanks for tuning in. And then Big Game basically says that they're co-signing due to their animosity towards black men and desire to go tit for tat. Yeah, I mean, for some of them, I think that that's the case. I mean, you have a lot of people that are just hostile, man. They promote this gender war. You can do a video about gender and it'll get all these views because this kind of gender war nonsense is popular on YouTube for some reason, unfortunately. And you have even conscious, so-called pro-black women like, what's her name? Cynthia G. You know, who did a video where she was basically saying that black men haven't earned respect. Black men don't deserve respect as a collective. And, you know, I think a lot of times, again, like people like that are projecting, you know, she's acknowledged in her debate, like, or in some video that her father wasn't there for her. You know, he was basically a sperm donor. And I think that experiences like that color one's perceptions of reality. It causes people to have distorted views of men and women and relationships and stuff like that, unfortunately. So it's easy for people like that to talk about how black men haven't earned respect as a collective and this and that. And you hear similar talking points from like Chrissy or whatever. I mean, it's not to the same degree, but you will hear her say, for instance, you know, constantly talking about black men not building and black men not doing this and black men not doing that. I mean, you hear this crap all the time, man. And it's just unfortunate, man. It's very disappointing that you have not only the black women bashing black men, but even more so, you have black men bashing black women. It's more of a problem with the black men doing the bashing because you can see, you know, these black men that bash black women are very popular here on YouTube. They get the most views, they get the most subs, they have all this attention. So in a lot of ways, a lot of the women are reacting to that hostility or whatever. But I think that both are not benefiting the black community. This so-called gender war is destroying the black community. Yeah, so let me just make it through these comments. You know, I don't want to keep you all night, and I don't want this to go too long because I know most people are not going to watch something that's hours and hours long. But I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Yeah, I know I don't watch things that go too long. I really don't. I can't watch nothing that's past an hour, but I know that this is probably well past an hour. Let's see how many. Yeah, I can't see how many minutes we are right now. But I'm not going to keep y'all long. So this person, Ken Tunde, said that if you watch Atlanta, you'll see that they have some clips on YouTube. All the nice, sweet girls are biracial. All the mean, evil, backbiting women are dark skinned. I don't think that that's true, man, because I saw this one episode where, you know, the group was hanging out with this biracial light skinned woman or whatever, and they got into some confrontation with her. You know, she destroyed their clothes and everything, and threw their clothes outside of the house and this and that. And they got into some major trouble because of this light-skinned black woman, biracial-looking woman. So I think that that's an example of how you're wrong. Like all the nice girls are not biracial girls on that show. And from what I can tell, there's only one. It's either one or two biracial women on there. Like I know that Donald Glover's love interest on the show is a biracial woman, but other than that, they don't show many biracial women on there. Other than that other character that I just mentioned. And I've watched season 2, so again, it may be different on season 1, but from what I can tell on season 2, I don't think that that statement is accurate. Yeah, and somebody asked if Chrissy was a swirler. I don't think she's. I mean, I don't know all her. I don't know. I don't follow her like that. Like I don't know who she's her dating habits right now, or whatever. But I know that she's done videos in the past where she's talked about how she's interracially dated before. You know, and she's done videos supporting these people who interracially date. So that's that. And Big Game said, we know that Donald Glover is a coon, but no one has seen him say anything explicitly bad about black women. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, you could say he is a coon because, I mean, especially that statement he made, that silly joke that he made in front of this white audience. I mean, and I don't follow his stand up like that. And the little bit that I've seen, it's bland type of comedy. It's white people comedy. It's not something that people in the hood would be laughing at. It's for white audiences, and you know that the fact that he would joke about a white woman referring to him as the N word. Again, that's coon behavior, as I said in that last video. Now, somebody said something about Confederate Army pins. Oh, let's see. Def Rocker said that he wore Confederate Army pants. I'm not familiar with that. Okay. And Big Game said that 30% of black women have degrees and 24% of black men have degrees. And someone pointed out how black women outnumber um, black men. And I've heard this before. I need to do more research. I know that this guy that wrote this book about is marriage for white people and, you know, basically encouraging these sisters to date out. He was talking about this stuff. So I want to do more research on that, and I'll probably do a video. I know this lady, I ain't gonna mention her name, but she did some goofy video with jelly beans and stuff, trying to make that point how it was hard to for a black woman to find a good black man and this and that. So I may do a video just going into this whole issue about whether or not there are a lot, you know, it's hard for a black woman to find quote unquote suitable suitors. So this guy, Ken Tunde, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He said, how much evidence do we need? Do we need him to come on the live stream and say, hey, new possibilities? I don't really mess with black women like that. I mean, I'm not going to repeat myself. I think I made my point. Information Man Show said, good program, brother. Thanks, I appreciate it. Oh yeah, Def Rocker said Donald Glover is in the upcoming Solo movie. Yeah, I'm looking. I may check that out. But lately, those Star Wars movies have been very disappointing. You know, this new set of Star Wars movies. I like Rogue. I can't remember the full name of it, but I like that Rogue movie. That was pretty good. And this movie is directed by Ron Howard, so hopefully it'll be good. So I may check it out. But in terms of Donald Glover, I don't think that he makes a good Han Solo. You know, because what's his name? Bully D. Williams played Han Solo, and you know he's fly, he got swag and all this and that. Um, you know, so I'm like, why did they have Donald Glover playing that guy? I mean, Donald Glover is like known as a quote unquote nerd or a geek and stuff like that. He's not the best person to play that role. Shout out to Lashid for you. Yeah, I finally got around to doing this live stream that I had talked about. Oh yeah, it's called Rogue One, Def Rocker. Thanks. Yeah, that's the name of that Star Wars movie. That's the only one that's been good out of those new Star Wars movies. Well, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Lashid. Yeah, yeah, you missed it. I'm just about to wrap up right now. Um, I don't really like doing real long hangouts, but let's see. And Def Rocker made this good point. He said, what does having a degree have to do with having a sound relationship? Exactly. What does that have to do with somebody being a suitable suitor? You know, there are plenty of black men that don't have degrees, um, that have blue collar jobs and they make a lot of money. They make good money and they're not burdened with student loans like a lot of us, quote unquote, educated people. So, yeah, I mean, I think that by sticking to this whole formula that they got to have an education, they got to be some, you know, professional person or whatever to be a suitable suitor. I think that that limits people's options, their dating options. Yeah, Donald Glover definitely isn't Han Solo, man. I mean, not Han Solo. That's not who I meant. What's that? Lando Calrissian. That's who I'm talking about. Lando Calrissian. That's who Donald Glover is playing in that movie. And Lando Calrissian again was played by Billy D. Williams. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Played by Billy D. Williams, who was, you know, smooth and all that kind of stuff. And Donald Glover is like a geek or whatever. So I don't think that that's going to be a good match, man. But I'm interested in seeing how it plays out in the film. Um, yeah, yeah, you're right. Aaron Collins. That's what I meant to say. Lando Calrissian. So Def Rocker said you tired. Yeah, I mixed up those names before. Like I was talking to a colleague about the whole thing, and I said the same thing. I guess because Han Solo's name is all in the title and stuff like that. So I'm thinking more about him than I am about Lando Calrissian. But again, my point is that Donald Glover doesn't seem like the best person to play a Lando Calrissian. Um, yeah, so I'm about to close out. Let's see, what's this last comment? Yeah, you know, this person makes the point that people shouldn't limit their options. I mean, and that's one thing that a lot of these women that they want to open their options, but they opening their options, you know, they're referring to opening their racial options, but they're not opening their options to date men who are not professionals or not educated and this and that. Okay, let's see what Rashid is talking about real quick. So Rashid was saying that Kevin Hart, Cat Williams, they're short. The voices are not that deep, not to put them down. And Donald Glover doesn't make white men feel threatened. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, those they're non-threatening. I mean, for the most part, especially like a Donald Glover, he's not threatening at all. Um, So, I mean, I get that point. I think that's a valid point about, some of those people. Especially like a Kevin Hart. I mean, there's a reason why um, somebody like that would be put at the forefront or given certain opportunities. Because if you come off more edgy, or more like if you come off militant or strong, and like a strong black man, a bold black man, you're gonna have more doors closed to you than open to you. Yeah, and I mean, I heard that guy. I was watching this video on Vlad TV, Lashid, where Vlad was interviewing the guy. I think his name is Witherspoon. He played on Friday, and he worked with. I didn't realize that he had worked with all these famous comedians and stuff like that. But I think it was him or somebody else. They were talking about how like they allow certain, like, a couple of people to make it or to get the spotlight, a couple of black people or whatever to get in prominent positions. It was either him or somebody else. So I think that you're on to something. Yeah, John Witherspoon. Yeah, yeah, that's him. Okay, so this person said Donald Glover said he didn't like the politics of dating black women because they accused him of leaving black women for a white girl. I'm gonna have to look that up to find out more information about that. And this person, Bonafide 1970, said in opening their options in that way, they might end up opening themselves up to being thoroughly disrespected and abused. And that reminds me of this article that I'm probably going to post tomorrow morning. I'm going to do a video about this woman who was with that attorney general in New York. The guy that just resigned in disgrace. This guy that was talking all this Me Too movement BS while he was abusing women. Physically abusing women and psychologically abusing them. This man actually had a relationship with a Asian woman, and I think he referred to this woman as a brown slave and had this woman acting subservient to him. So yeah, that's a prime example of disrespect to a woman of quote unquote color, even though she's not African American. She's a woman of color and who was basically treated like a modern day bed wench. So you all look out for that. Y'all look out for that video. I'm going to do that tomorrow morning. Let's see. Yeah, and that's the thing, Lashie. Like, I'm not aware of him saying that he prefers white women or anything like that, or saying that saying something disrespectful towards black women. Yeah, I wish we could have just discussed. I would really want to go into this, these points you're making about, a lot of black men just basically trying to be like white men. Some black men trying to go after what white men go after. She's pointing out how because some white men are going after Asian women, these black men are following suit. They want to have what the white men, drive, wear, etc. And yeah, there's a poem that Donald Glover posted on Twitter where he was talking about white people and this and that and how he wanted to be white. But I think it's kind of it's a deep type of poem where he's not just talking about literally wanting to be white and stuff like that. But I think that, excuse me, I think that kind of touches on your point. And I will go deeper, but I'm about to sign off, y'all. Um, but I want to thank y'all for tuning in. And that point about Filipinos being black, I think it's, being referred to as black Asians and stuff like that. I think that's an interesting point because both Donald Glover and Issa Rae made that point. Oh, and Lashid pointed out how Filipino women may be more open to getting with brothers, unlike Chinese, Japanese, and Korean women. Yeah, but on that note, I'm going to sign off. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate your support. And with that, I'll say peace and blessings to each and every one of you.